Today I'm going to do a brief review and comparison of two editions of the New Revised Standard Version. The bottom one that you see is the Cambridge Reference Edition with Apocrypha in burgundy goatskin. It just came out, I believe, early 2018. The top one is the Allan NRSV with Apocrypha that just came out in March of 2019. And these Bibles have some similarities and some differences. And for those who might be interested in comparing the two, I'll just go through some of the features of them. And I apologize for the handheld camera, but at the moment that's all we can do. The Allan is, as you can see, longer, but at the same time it is a narrower text block as well. That's probably not quite, it's more like that. It is almost a ½ inch narrower, although it is indeed a longer text block. So it has a bit of a different profile. The Allan is more elongated and tall and narrow, while the Cambridge is not square, but it seems to be a little more square in the way it's the size of it. The dimensions of the Cambridge are 8 1/4 by 6. Now, I'm talking about the actual text block itself, not the covers, because the yap on the covers can make quite a difference. And the Allan Bible is 8 1/2 tall, so it's 1/4 inch or more taller, and 5 1/2 inches wide. And again, I'm talking about the actual size of the text block and not the covers on it. The Allan weighs in just a bit lighter. It's 1.2 kilos or 42 ounces, and the Cambridge is just a little bit heavier, 1.3 kilos or 46 ounces. Not a big difference in holding in your hand, but it is a noticeable difference. Let me just talk about the covers for a few minutes. As I said, the Cambridge is a burgundy goatskin, and it really is lovely. It's a really lovely cover. The texture, the grain, is quite even on this one at least. And I would say, compared to the Allan, it's a little more grippy. I don't know how else to explain that. But when you're holding it, your fingers don't tend to slide on the Cambridge cover quite as much. So very nice cover, very well done. The liner is a leather, and as you can see, it's a very shiny, very smooth leather liner on this one. Of course, it is edge lined. Both of these are edge lined as well. The Allan, of course, is the Highland goatskin, as we can see. It is a Highland goatskin, and this particular one is the Highland goatskin red. Beautiful, beautiful green. I don't know how much we can see here, but the green on this, there we are, is really extraordinary, and a wonderful feeling leather. It's just very smooth and supple, and very, very nicely done. The Allan, of course, has a larger yap around it. Now, this would be one of my nitpicks, if I have some, about the Allan, and that the yap on the bottom end and top is actually larger than it is on the sides. So I think we can see that here. If you pull the yap together on the bottom, it almost meets, but on the sides here, it doesn't meet it at all. So I wish they had made it just a little more even all the way around, but that's not a huge issue for me either. The liner on the Allan is a nice red leather liner. I love this gold gilt line around the edge of it. It really makes it dressy and nice. The leather here is nice and smooth, but it's not shiny at all. In fact, it would almost feels just a little dry feeling or something. It's not a real smooth, shiny leather, but I expect with time it will smooth out as well. The Allan binding is by Charfleet, Allan First Edition by Charfleet, a book bindery. It's a nice binding. It's a very nicely done. I'm very pleased with it. The leather is really superb. Now the gilding on these two couldn't be much more different. As you can see, the gilding on the Cambridge on the bottom is a traditional gold, very well done. The edging on the Allan Bible is what they're calling a speckled edging, and it is a sort of deep red with blue and gold specks on it. I'm not 100% sure. It probably wouldn't be my favorite, but it is certainly unique and gives the Bible a very different and unique look as well. One of the things that's neat about the Allan Bible is that these gold flecks really stand out when the light strikes them, but when the light isn't striking them, they sort of blend in and just kind of a really neat effect as well. The Allan has 3 ribbons, as you can see, beautiful, sort of almost electric blue kind of ribbons, very long, very nice. The Cambridge has 2 very lovely, also long, burgundy ribbons in them. So the Allan has 3, the Cambridge has 2 in it as well. The text, now let's just talk about the text, because in many ways that's what most gets our attention. In the Cambridge Bible, we have nice wide double columns in the text block. The print is nice and dark, minimal ghosting. The margins are very small on this one. So for those who might be note takers, you can do it, but you have to make sure you're printing very small if you're going to do some kind of note taking. Of course, I can't find anyone I'm looking for it in the Bible. The margin in the gutter is about the same width as the margin on the outside as well. References down the middle. This is a very easy to read text. It's very clear and lots of good white space, wonderful line matching. Out of the 2, I would say I would prefer this one for just reading. I like the wider columns. It can make longer sessions of reading easy on the eyes. In contrast, the text block of the Allan Bible, the columns are considerably narrower because, of course, the Bible itself is narrower, and the outside margins are really significantly larger than those of the Cambridge. And even the inner margins on the Allan are a little bit wider than the ones on the Cambridge as well. So for those who are note takers, you will find the Allan Bible gives you considerably more space to write notes, especially around the outside margin of the text block as well. So the little bit more ghosting in the Allan Bible, and it's line matched, but not perfectly. There are some places, especially I've noticed in Genesis, where the line matching is off by like 30 or 40%, which can be a little distracting. But generally, overall, the text is quite well line matched, and that certainly helps with ease of reading as well. Should also mention the Allan text block is by SPCK, and it is an anglicized text. So that means that the spellings tend to be British, and the punctuation can be somewhat different than the standard North American English punctuation marks. Something you may have to get used to. I'm a Canadian, so for me it's wonderful because it's very familiar in the spellings and the punctuation and so on. There are a few word changes that I've come across. I don't know how many. I know in Romans chapter 3, the anglicized version says irrespective of the law, and the American English version says apart from the law. So there are a few words like that that may be different as well throughout it. The cross-references and footnotes are, as near as I can tell, are the same all the way through. Some of the features of these two Bibles, one of the main features of the Allan Bible is this nice lined note paper at the end of the text, right following the maps. And there's 32 pages of this, which is wonderful for those of us who like to keep records and notes in the back of our Bible. So that's a real plus. There are no lined pages in the back of the Cambridge. There are 2 or 3 just heavy end cardstock type of paper in the back. Both have maps. The Cambridge maps are very brightly colored, and there's 15 of them, whereas in the Allan Bible there are only 9 of them, and much more muted colors, which the details are really nice on both maps. I'm not a big user of maps in my Bible, so it doesn't really bother me that much. The Allan Bible has no concordance of any kind. You come to the book of Revelation and then you're right to the maps. Whereas the Cambridge Bible has this, what's called a glossary. So when you finish the book of Revelation, you come to this glossary, and it's basically names and places and important biblical concepts, and you can just look them up and it will give you a definition and often scripture reference as well. So for those of you who like that kind of thing, the Cambridge has it, and neither of them have a regular concordance in them. For me, that's not an issue, because I would rather have the Bible kept as thin as possible rather than have added concordances and maps and so on, because those I can look up on my phone or Bible apps on the computer pretty easy as well. So yeah, my overall conclusion about these two, I would say for me the pluses of the Cambridge are the text, that nice bold crisp text in wider columns that for me make it a little easier for long periods of reading. So I prefer that. I also have to admit I prefer that nice gold gilding on the covers. A little bit of a traditionalist that way maybe. The Allan, what are the pluses? Obviously the leather cover, the Highland goatskin, is just amazing and a wonderful thing. I like the more traditional dimensions of the Allan. It's a fairly tall and not as broad, and I like that. I like the way it lays open in my hand when you're just holding it. It seems to balance a little easier, I think. And as I said, for me the anglicized text is actually a plus, so I really like that. One of the things that I'm not crazy about is in the front of the Allan Bible we have this very heavy family record section. It's a very heavy, stiff cardboard. In a regular Bible, I don't see the need for all of this, children and marriages and deaths and grandchildren. Kind of nice maybe, but in a family Bible, but I don't see the need for it. And it just makes the first section of the Bible feel a little stiff because they're such heavy cardstock. Pretty minor thing, actually. So overall, both of these are absolutely wonderful Bibles. Love them both, and both very high quality, and wonderful to finally have the New Revised Standard Version in some premium leather. It seems like it's been a long time since we've been able to get an NRSV with any kind of premium leather at all. So, brief comparison of the two for any of those who may be trying to decide between the Allan and the Cambridge NRSV in goatskin with the Apocrypha. Really appreciate you watching, and God bless.